you will become much more skilled communicator. Practice writing and practice communicating. If you can communicate with anybody what you believe and why, that is one of the most powerful things you can accomplish for yourself.
Welcome to Dishin of Diaspora, where we'll explore the journeys of people shaping the food world. Through their stories, we'll uncover how food connects us to culture, history, and each other. I'm your host, Chef Emmy, and today I have a really special guest in the house. Bella Rangi is the founder and CEO of Bella Foods, a company that's changing the landscape of the consumer packaged goods market by infusing her Indian roots into ready-to-eat meals. Bella's journey is one of passion, innovation, and leadership. What started as a humble farmer's market stall has blossomed into a thriving brand, now in partnership with some of the biggest names in retail, including Amazon, Albertsons, and Kroger. With a commitment to both quality and community, Bella has made a name for herself as a bold and inspiring entrepreneur. She was recognized as one of the 2021 Puget Sound Business Journal's 40 Under 40, a well-deserved honor for her contributions to the culinary world and beyond. Bella, thank you so much for taking time out to come chat with me here today. I'm so honored.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome. So before we dive into your stories,
the intro. Thank you.
It's all you.
Oh, thank you.
I like to start with a little game, a little icebreaker.
Okay,
I call Quick Dish. I'm going to name two things, and you just pick which one of the two speaks most to you.
Okay, let's do it.
No right or wrong answer. Okay, spicy or mild?
Spicy.
Street food or fine dining?
Oh, I could go either way.
I know.
Yeah.
Chana masala bowl or chicken tikka bowl?
Chana masala.
Mm-hmm. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Butter or ghee?
Both.
Breakfast for dinner or dinner for breakfast?
Dinner for breakfast.
Light and fresh or hearty and stewed?
Light and fresh.
Paneer or mozzarella?
Both.
Yes. I love it. Thanks for indulging me in that.
That was cute.
Thanks.
Right in my soft spot.
I know, right? I tried. Okay, so you were born in India?
I was born in India.
Okay, tell me about that. Like, how was it, your early life in India, and how did that experience shape your connection to food and culture?
Oh, that's a great question. Most people are like, oh, you don't have an accent.
People.
I know. I was 5.
Okay.
Although,
let me pause.
Yeah.
I can kind of hear the Canadian with
can
the
you
boat.
Really?
Yeah.
I get that from time to time. Like, I've lived in Seattle now for over 20 years.
I can still hear a little
and
bit.
people still say, are you from Canada?
Yeah.
So my mom and I came from Canada when I was 5.
Okay.
But my grandparents already had like a base in Canada. And so I actually had the best time as a child in India. I don't remember anything unsavory about it. It was sweet. You like what I did there?
Yes.
It was like we grew up on a farm. Everything was fresh. We lived in a little village. It was really quaint. No plumbing, no electricity. You had to go get your own water. You had to go milk your own cow for milk. And my grandparents had this huge farm, and I was treated like the little princess of the farm, and I could pick any sugarcane I wanted whenever I wanted.
Wow.
And for years I didn't even know what candy was. And so when I came to Canada, I was like, what is this? And I never ever got into candy. To this day, I can't do sugary candy.
Wow.
Because I feel like I was really imprinted by those beautiful, natural, vegetal, fresh flavors from my childhood.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you were 5 when you moved from India to Canada.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So similarities in our story. I was 6 when I moved from Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a lot of like vivid memories too in Brazil.
Strong memories.
Yeah. And like for me, I don't know, for you, a lot of them are involving food. My mom was like the chef of the family. So even like parties and stuff, I just remember like the smells and the flavors and textures.
And the warmth.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and the sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so how was that? Yeah, when you came, like culture shock? Like, do you remember?
I never thought thought about it that way. That's a good question. I remember going to McDonald's as a young kid and being like, what is this?
Yeah. Was it like a special treat? Because I feel like
It was
for
like a
me,
special
it was
treat.
like, ooh.
Yeah. It was definitely a special treat.
Yeah.
Like very humble beginnings. So when you would go out for anything, it was always a treat. But I remember, because I grew up vegetarian. So going to McDonald's, everybody wanted me to try a cheeseburger. And so I couldn't eat the beef. I would take the patty out and I would just eat the cheese in the bun. And I was like, non-sandwich.
Yeah, yeah.
But it took a while. It took a while for me to adjust. I was probably a vegetarian until my teens when my doctor was like, you're anemic. You need to start eating animal protein. So, but there were all other kinds of adjustments. But I'm really grateful for the experience of being born in that place in the world that I couldn't even recreate for my kids if I wanted to.
I know,
and I do want to. Sometimes I do.
Same. I just I think about my childhood and all the things that we did. It was just a way of life that now here it's trendy to do, and it's wow, I wish they had that experience as well. So you start, I don't know much about Canadian school systems. I think for me the biggest shock was coming to the school system here in the US, and school lunch was what is this, because in Brazil lunch is the biggest meal of the day, and all kids are home for lunch. You either go to AM school or PM school, so
and you get to go home for lunch?
or you get adults everybody's home for lunch.
Okay.
So I just remember
like in Europe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So lunch was a big deal. I remember my grandma making lunch, or my mom and it wasn't soup, salad, sandwich. It was actual meals. So coming to Seattle and it's what is this? Tater tots, corn dog? What in the world? It was such a shocker to me. Did you experience that at all in Canada?
Yes, I did. Because in India, you go home and you have lunch, and if you're working on the farm, lunch is brought to you, and everybody would come and eat together as a family, even if you weren't related. There was a warmth and a inclusion around food that was always there. And my kids and I just came back from Italy. We were in Sicily for the summer, and same thing. Very farm, very agrarian, very warm culture, and people would go home and break for a couple hours and go home for lunch. And I thought there's a simplicity and a divinity to that interaction. And I wish I could give that to my kids.
I know, and it's just there's so many different contributions as to why it's so hard for us to do that here, but I wish
they are on this lunch program. They get a hot lunch at school. Nice. Because mom don't have time to make lunch.
I know. I know.
So you're working, there's you're multitasking, you're balancing everything. But we do have home cooked meals as often as I can. But they enjoy it. They get to do their cheeseburgers with their friends at school, and it's like your split identity.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking about that, so food, being a child immigrant, I'm just starting to unpack what I'm noticing is actually trauma from my immigration, my move. It was at the time I didn't know that it was a traumatic experience, but it really was. I had no idea what was happening. I wasn't really included in a conversation of we're moving. It was just we're going there. I think it was a concept that I didn't understand, and left all my family behind, and it was just a new, it was gray. I descended upon SeaTac Airport in February, and it was gray clouds and just a very polar opposite. So for me, my survival was assimilating and really trying to be as American as I can, not wanting to be different. And fortunately my parents were able to keep my culture alive, especially through food. We had the first Brazilian restaurant here in Seattle.
So that's so cool.
I think that I was really lucky to be able to maintain my connection to food, to my roots, even though sometimes either consciously or subconsciously I would try to kind of shun it away or not go to did you ever experience that? How did you maintain a connection with your Indian roots so far away from home?
Well, I would say that I had the opposite problem. It was hard to turn it off.
Really?
Yeah, my parents were slow to assimilate, so my identity was very rooted in being a good girl, being a good Indian girl, being an excellent student, and being passive and putting myself last, even when I was a little kid, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember thinking about it until like my 40s, you know, thinking about what did that do for me and how has that impacted how I show up today at work or even in my own head. Um, but I would say Canada is a beautiful melting pot. And despite that, I still felt very awkward and weird being this Indian girl. And, you know, like I have a 12-year-old. I don't know how old your daughter is.
16.
16.
Yeah, 16
Okay.
and 8.
16 and 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I were to treat my daughter the way my mom treated me in middle school, she would completely lose her mind. Like it's just a different generation. But my mom used to shop for my clothes. She used to do my hair the way she wanted it to be done. So I had like this mustard oil long braid, and I had like these pleated corduroys, and she'd buy me like gender neutral sweaters and she'd tuck them in, and I'd have to wear this. I was just a total dork.
Yeah. Oh.
But I showed up, and I didn't know I was really any different until middle school, and the name started catching on, and I always smelled like Indian food. And then I think I was like, Mom, can you stop packing Indian food in my lunch? And but that was not a turn I was able to navigate, and I think until early adulthood. Yeah.
Wow.
It was good, but it was also bad.
Yeah, totally. Like, and when I say like traumatic, I didn't know at the time it was, you know, like you don't know at the time, you don't know any better until you kind of like start unpacking like everything as to, you know, why you made the decisions you did and you know, how you are.
Well, it's great actually when I look back on it. There's a French immersion school behind our house in our catchment, and I just happened to be like this blue collar little kid that went to this public French immersion school, and I got introduced to things that I felt inherently familiar with from a really young age. And that was this other dichotomy of there's all this other beauty and culture and warmth from other parts of the world that are not what I live at home, but there's more to live and breathe and see and integrate into like this beautiful life that I have. So I was very lucky that way. And it actually gave me a natural pause to get away from my birth name, which I love. My name is Belgique. My legal name is Belgique, but my French teacher started calling me Bella. And it kind of stuck on my whole life. And I think it served to help me assimilate. And even to this day, my mom calls me Bella now. I mean, maybe when she's mad, she'll be like, well, you haven't called me in 4 weeks. But yeah, it was interesting. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so then when did you move to Seattle?
I moved in my early 20s.
Okay. And then when did Sherbella kind of like develop?
Well, I after my firstborn, I went to UW, and then I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life. I was supposed to go to med school. I didn't do that. And then a couple of years later, I was working at the research department at the university. And then I was in my late 20s. Time just flew. And then it was like, okay, I want to have a beautiful little girl, and that's what God gave me. And then shortly after she was born, I felt like a calling to explore something creative, and I never intended it for it to turn into a business. There was the farmers market close to the neighborhood that we moved into, and I just set up a food booth on a whim. And I dabbled in all kinds of things during that. Like, life is not a straight line period where it ebbs and flows and there's S curves. When I would stage at restaurants at night, and I did that even when my daughter was really young. I desperately wanted to learn different kinds of culinary and particularly French technique. And even though I wasn't getting paid, I still felt like it was a beautiful experience for me, and I learned so much. And I've loved cooking, and I've loved food since I was a young person. And it actually all kind of cultivated into how Sherbella began. My grandfather had his own catering company when I was growing up, so I always admired his ability to grow his food business while taking care of everybody that worked there, while making food that he really loved. And there was a vertness to it. There was a brightness and a lightness. I think with Indian food, sometimes the way it's I want to say marketed outside of India, it's very heavy. It's like it's cheap street food. It's greasy. But in the north, Punjab, where I'm from, it's very light. It's vegetal. It's seasonal. I think it's quite elegant. And so I adapted everything I had learned from my grandfather, and learning all these different cuisines and traveling all over Europe into how I make Indian food, which is light and restrained. It doesn't hit you over the head with a ton of spice. I think it's very feminine. And so I wanted to share that with my community at the Queen Anne Farmers Market.
I love it.
And it turned into, I don't know, one step kind of led into the next.
Wow. And so was it like ready to eat meals like you sell now today, or did that kind of
kind of, it was like hot takeaway.
Okay.
So it was composed meals. And I would get lovely comments, and the months following I would have a line of people coming with Tupperware to like meal plan around it. And it was a great compliment, and it was quite lovely.
Yeah. Did you have like any idea that it would be what it is today,
No.
No. Wow. I read somewhere where you said, what was it? Like you really like took it slow. There was like the exact quote. It's somewhere here on my notes. I can't find it. But you really like took it slow and didn't get like distracted by like shiny opportunities, which I think is really hard. I know for me, I feel like, for minorities, women, it's hard not to like take the opportunity when it like hits you. Just like we're surviving, like survival mode. It's like, when is the next opportunity ever? Like operating off of like scarcity. So like, how did you really like maintain like your patience and like reviewed every opportunity that came your way, and decided if it was not for you to say no, because that's really scary to say no.
I think it wasn't always easy because you have like a fear of missing out, right? And I definitely did. Well, I think there's a few things. I think Seattle is a total tech bro town, right? So when you're fundraising and you're building a startup, there is an inherent pressure to want to build something fast and make it fat and sell it and now validate your existence with this. That was definitely a part of the early process, like when we started to really build what Shri Bella could be. And I think it always felt wrong inside. And so we only took money from people that I really, really trusted and I really, really liked. And I could show up as my full self in front of. It wasn't like I had to pretend like I was somebody I'm not. So I think that was helpful. Only take money from people that you really, really like. And I think the other part was it would just coincided with where I was in my personal life too. I was in my mid-30s. I was interested in becoming a person who had a life that was intentional and thoughtful and really fulfilling. And I think it's all one fabric, and I would think about those things deeply. And I knew, like if you take personal relationships, for example, they need to be nurtured and they need to be fed if you want them to have longevity, and if you want to keep going back to the well and get love and joy and lightness from them, And I thought about building the business the same way. And I was never interested in building it really fat and fast. I think that's a whole other animal. And I think entrepreneurship has gotten a bad name because of that. But for me, I think owning a small business, which is what it is, it's still small. Even if it's big and it's everywhere, it's still small for me. We're a regional company. We distribute regionally. It's about building something that is sustainable. And for me, what that means is I take care of the people that work with me every day. We pay a living wage. If you need to go home and take care of your baby, you're not going to get penalized for it. If you are interested in advancing and growing, and you are new to this country, most of the people that work at Bella are women, immigrant women.
Love it.
We will teach you. We will get you certification. We will. One of the women that has worked at Bella the longest, I'm really proud of this, is she has never made more money in her life. And she has been able to help her family buy their first townhouse, and she was able to sponsor her mom to come from South America.
Goodness.
And she has been able to create the life of her dreams.
Goosebumps.
I know.
That's amazing.
And I never intended to do it that way or to have these outcomes. But what I did do was I refused to build a company the way the men around me were telling me to do it. And it was embarrassing sometimes, because you'd go to these founder events and they'd be like, well, how many millions and how did you grow? And, and it's like, I'm not interested in talking about that. I want to talk to people who are going through a spiritual transformation by being a leader and taking that duty really sincerely. And I think having that, knowing and touching that early on in building Bella was imperative to me, in order not to get distracted by the shiny things. Like I knew what was important, and in order to protect that, I could not sacrifice that for cheap growth. Yeah.
Wow.
So I plan on Bella being around for 150 years after I'm gone.
Wow.
Or longer.
That's beautiful.
And so we're building it the right way.
Wow, that's really inspiring. It really is, because you don't hear a lot of that. You hear about the shiny, like, bro, like, millions and all that, and it gets really, like, overwhelming, and you like kind of imposter syndrome pops up, and it's like, so to really, like, stay focused on yourself and your values is really amazing.
It's not it wasn't always that clear. And surrounding yourself with people who genuinely want the best for you, and not, they don't have ulterior motives. I think is something you learn to do for yourself as an adult. The more you learn to like yourself, the more you're willing to show up for yourself. And I think I'm just really lucky. It all integrated. There's definitely a lot of grace and a lot of luck here. It all integrated in a way where I don't think there's a lot of separation between me as a human being and this company that has come out of my life journey.
That's awesome. I feel like not a lot of people can say that, so that's amazing.
Well, thank you.
So tell me, okay, so I, walk into QFC or, other stores, and I see your products there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know the owner of this. Like, what does it take to get the product there? Like, what is the process for all this, like?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of learning that happened. I think for the first couple of years, I just got my teeth kicked in every day. I started the company being when we actually decided to commercialize the process and create wholesale products that we could sell to grocery partners. I was the chef. I was the sanitizer, waste manager. I was the cook, the packer. I would pack all the products. I was the label designer. I was the driver. So I'd cook all night, and then I would cook all night, and then all day I would do all the deliveries. And then I'd get home, and I couldn't move for 8 hours.
Oh my gosh.
But I think it wasn't very, it wasn't like a thing that I had mapped out. It was really organic. Like at the farmer's market, somebody came from this large company that was expanding one of its retail and projects, and they said to me, this is restaurant quality food. Here's my card. I'd love to talk to you about it.
Wow.
That was a woman.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a woman.
Wow.
And they inspired me to learn more about building a commercialized, product that could grow into the Pacific Northwest. And that was a godsend. And then after that, it was really word of mouth. I started getting calls from buyers
Wow.
Yeah, I've never submitted
Yeah.
like a proposal or like chased after.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, thank goodness, it's been very, very organic. And I think the testimony is really to the women that work at Sri Bella
Mm-hmm.
and the quality of the food and the
Mm-hmm.
product that we make, and that we do it with love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Because at the restaurant, my parents' restaurant, my dad has like this hot sauce, and we, he really wanted to sell it at stores. So we kind of like tried to do that. And man, it's a really tough, like industry to crack in there, like trying to, we were chasing buyers, and it was like, you didn't know if the chicken or the egg came first. The buyers wanted you to have a distributor. The distributors wanted you already be in stores. And it was just like we were packing everything ourselves. And it was just like a lot, So like the CPG market is really, really competitive and really kind of hard. And I feel like there's not a lot of information about it. It's like really hard. At least like when we tried, this was like 10 years ago, there was like nowhere that I could go to be like, okay, what are the steps to do this? There wasn't any. I don't know if there's any today. So I always
there isn't. I was actually thinking of starting like I don't know, like an online course or something for it, because there's so many people that have beautiful products. They're unique. They're high quality, that don't know how to navigate. Yeah, I've been thinking about how fun it would be to share that information.
Yeah, you absolutely should. I think that there's definitely a need for that.
Thank you. Thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you the one that is like creating all these products and, all, the menu or the recipes, and like what is your job with Sri Bella right now?
Well, I'm still deeply connected to the business.
Yeah.
There is this misnomer that if you have a successful company, you can step away from it and work like an hour a day. I would love to meet the person who actually has done that. Right. It continues to be a labor of love. I am deeply involved in innovation still. I love creating delicious, clean food. And I work with customers. I work directly with our customers. I think that one-on-one relationship with your customer is one of the most important things you can do as a founder and as a owner and an operator. And they're just key things that I think I can never let go of, like spending time with team, spending one-on-one time, checking in with them. I think it matters. The human connection matters a lot. And once you lose that, you lose your culture. You lose this foundation that you have, and it becomes difficult to make it accretive as the company grows. So that's how I spend my time today. Yeah.
Wow. So for us, like when we had the restaurant, I got a lot of questions of like, were our customers American, Brazilian? And at first it was really a lot of like American clients. And, our mission was to like educate, like with Brazilian food, Brazilian culture. It wasn't until, and that's kind of been my mindset as a chef, it wasn't until recently where, I see like a lot of Brazilians like really connecting with me. And I'm like, wow, this feels good, because especially in Seattle, there isn't a huge Brazilian community. So like to kind of like now see like my people who get like excited for Brazilian food away from Brazil has been really like really fun. Yeah. How about you? Do you or is it American or Indian people?
Who are the customers?
Yeah.
I think it's everybody. Yeah, I definitely don't think if you want your mom's home cooked Indian food, you're coming to buy Sri Bella.
Yeah.
I think there's a contemporariness to it. And like I am my customer. And so everything I create for me. And one of the motivators was there's nothing in the market that I would want to bring home and feed to my kids. There was nothing fresh. Absolutely. And I'm a big proponent of plant-based. I do like meat. I like wonderful grass-fed, organic meats if you can find them. We don't eat a lot of meat, but it's mostly, I lost my train of thought.
Two moms just
Two moms. I'm really focused on a gut-friendly diet, and there was nothing like that in the marketplace that positioned South Asian food to be clean and premium.
Yeah.
I think when you start talking about global food, it quickly gets devalued, and that is something I have a huge. It's one of my pet peeves.
Same.
Yeah, because when I think of global landscapes and culture and the women and all these different strengths that we have, I think of elegance, I think of sophistication, I think of mythology, I think of beauty, I think of all of these things that get discounted.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to create a South Asian brand that was clearly feminine, elegant, premium.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you describe your food as very feminine. I love it. And I see it too. Like I do it. That's a really good descriptor for it. So looking ahead, what's next for Bella? Do you have big plans? What about expanding? I know you said small business and you're really regional, but do you have any goals like that?
My hope is to continue to take care of the folks that make it possible to do what we do every day. We're in the Pacific Northwest. It would be great to grow nationally. It would be great to get into center store. So we have some other projects we're working on. And I think one of the most wonderful things that being a business owner has afforded me is the privilege of being a single mom that can take care of her kids. And it's a reward for the risk that we take as business owners. And so that's been the most, so I'm really enjoying like this place where I am, where there's balance now after, it's been 10 years, a little over 10 years now, of just enjoying where we are right now. And again, methodically, thoughtfully doing the next thing, because I'm in my 40s. My kids are 12 and 9. I think a lot of women, a lot of my friends, they feel a lot of pressure to go faster, like somebody's going to pull the curtain down on us as we near our 50s. Like I have that fear in my head too, but I've shrunk my world so much, like so intentionally, that those voices are not as loud as they used to be. So I'm looking forward to putting out more quality, more thoughtful products that can create value, convenience, and enjoyment for people and their kitchen tables at home with their families.
Nice.
And spending time with my children and being the best mom I can.
So much pressure to balance that. I feel like I always get that question, like, how do you do it all? And this like myth of like work-life balance, which like to me is just BS. It doesn't exist. You have days that you're rocking the mom thing, like you're doing absolutely amazing, days where not so much, and days that you're doing business the best that you can. It's just really a balance. And I love that you said you kind of like curated your world to have, the best possible people and kind of like voices, entering your energy field. I think that's really, really important as well.
I think that's one of the greatest lessons of just being alive for me is you have to stand guard at the door of your mind. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a parent living in today's crazy world, you have to stand guard at the door of your mind and really control the food that you feed your mind every day.
I'm gonna remember that. Stay guard at the door of your mind. Okay. I love that. I'm going to be saying that to myself. I think that I'm getting into my 40s and I'm just starting to, enter that phase of standing guard and, and really like saying no to things, kind of like being selfish. But honestly, like, I don't think it's being selfish. I think we spent all our lives, giving to kids, husbands, friends, parents, like
people
everyone.
Who don't appreciate you.
Yeah.
You give yourself away and then you're empty.
Yeah. So it really, I feel like it kind of, unfortunately, you have to take that journey and you have to get empty to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
No more. I gotta fill myself up.
Yeah.
And keep it full.
I think you're gonna like your 40s.
I think so too. I'm really excited, actually. Yeah. I'm much more excited than I was about going into my 30s. So I think again, I'm like surrounding myself with successful women who are doing amazing. So I'm really excited for it.
I will be standing there with a welcome basket for you on your 40th birthday.
If you can, I mean, you've already dropped so many gems, but if you can pass down, some advice for especially women, especially like women of color, immigrant women, women who just have never felt like they're enough or like they
Oh
could do it,
yeah,
and
that
just that
is
imposter
that
syndrome.
awful
I
disease we
know, like
have.
what would you say to them if they're, wanting to start a business and just don't think that they can?
Yeah. I think I'm going to speak from experience. I was the best at discounting
Mm,
myself. I was my worst enemy in that way. You can call it like imposter syndrome
mm-hmm,
or lack of experience, or um, I think the thing that I would say is listen and observe. Um, and you will find out that the people that you're putting on a pedestal that you think are so
mm,
bright and brighter than you
mm-hmm,
and giving you permission to feel poorly about yourself maybe are not everything that you are creating them to be in your
mm-hmm,
mind. And now I have the privilege of being in some wonderful rooms with very successful people,
mm-hmm,
and on a few occasions it has occurred to me that, oh, I think I have the same, if not greater, faculties
mm-hmm.
than that person. But it's not an ego thing. It's more
No.
like appreciating yourself
Mm-hmm,
finally,
mm-hmm,
and understanding that it's not about a fancy business degree or
mm-hmm,
coming from the right family. It's about, I think wisdom, listening, and not chasing after the shiny things,
yeah.
being patient, and watching things around you grow that you deeply care about. It has been very fulfilling for me because, yeah, it is very easy for women to feel selfish,
Mm-hmm,
that the choices you've made are at the cost of other people. But I see my life now as a series of choices where I gave myself away, and then I gave myself back to myself,
mm.
and this is the happiest I've ever been. Mm-hmm.
I love it. And I feel like there's so much purpose in you sitting across from me today, because everything is like, these are concepts that I'm starting to discover.
Totally.
It totally rang true to me where, I started working in a corporate setting a couple years ago for the first time
Mm-hmm.
ever. And here I am, starting to be in rooms with people who I would have thought, oh my God, like I'm nowhere near them and their
Mm-hmm.
suits and their degrees and, their skin color. And, it, when I started getting into the rooms with them, and I was like, what?
Yes. It's an illusion.
Huh?
It's all, that stuff is bullshit. It's all
Yeah.
such an illusion.
And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, like never again am I going to think that anybody is better than me.
Yeah.
Like we are all, striving to be the best that we can, some more than others.
Yeah.
But I just, from that experience working in that setting, really was like, wow, okay, like that,
Mm-hmm.
the suits and all that doesn't faze me
Yeah.
anymore.
No.
Yeah.
I think I tell my daughter this. She's going into high school, and
Mm-hmm.
I tell her, and I would tell any woman this: write down your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Write down your thoughts, and in the process of doing that, you will examine the lies that you tell yourself. One,
Mm-hmm.
and two, you will become a much more skilled communicator.
Mm-hmm.
Practice writing and practice communicating. If you can communicate with anybody what you believe and why, that is one of the most powerful things you can accomplish for yourself. And for me, that's been irreplaceable.
Wow.
That's been priceless for me, to be able to sit in a room
Mm-hmm.
and be able to explain myself, my vision, what all of this means for me. It touches people, it moves people,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're in a room with your lawyer or your buyer or, somebody who's responsible for opening the next door.
Mm-hmm.
I think learning to be articulate and a strong communicator is an irreplaceable skill
Yeah.
if you want to build something bigger than you,
Mm-hmm.
and that is going to be here after you're gone.
Yeah. Wow. I want to bring it back because you were speaking about your experience as a child and your mom kind of making all the decisions for you, and you being a good Indian girl. And you mentioned possibly having gone to college for medical, or maybe
I went to UW. I studied biochemistry.
Okay, so like what did your family think when you opened up your food business?
Oh my gosh.
And what do they think
now?
now?
So upset.
Oh wow.
They were like, "What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're immigrants.
Yes.
And so they've made all this sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
They want their children to have white collar jobs. They want them to have financial security, in other words, safety.
Mm-hmm.
And any business owner knows that safety is it doesn't exist. It's like a knife fight every day. You're a day away from being out of business, right? And so I think that really scared them, and they never, unfortunately, had I mean, as a generation of immigrants, I think my parents' generation never had the transformative experiences that allow you to, and this is sad, really appreciate your own gifts from God. My mom was a single parent, and she's still here, is. And when my mom and dad got a divorce, my mom went to work in a manufacturing facility, and that was transformative for her, but she worked up the ranks, and she retired after like 30 years. That's how she fed us. That's how she put us through school. But I don't think she ever left her idea of safety because she had kids to feed and a mortgage to pay. I think being first generation, well, I call myself first generation, you are afforded a privilege that has come from the sacrifice of your parents, and I don't take it lightly.
No, definitely. I think that like children immigrants are definitely have that like same experience as first generations as well. I think we can relate more to each other in that way, and where we can dream, we can, like we have both cultures, and we live in that like third culture space. So
and our children are living in, I don't know if you feel like this, I don't know, fourth, fifth cultures. My children don't even speak the language. I'm mortified. I'm so embarrassed.
It is, but it's life be lifing. It's really hard, and thankfully, my parents spoke it to me, but that was also out of necessity. They couldn't speak English very well. It was broken English at first. But that's one of my biggest regret is that they don't speak the language. But my oldest is in high school, and she's taking Spanish, which is very similar to Portuguese, and like showing like interest and stuff. But there's other ways that we kept the culture alive for them, especially through food. They know all the food names. They can name ingredients and stuff like that. But it's a different experience that they're living for
we
sure.
have Bollywood movies, so my kids watch Bollywood movies with the the subscript. It's awful, but I think it's also, as a younger parent, I thought I'm gonna fail if I don't teach my kids their heritage, but it really has forced me to question my assumptions about identity and where meaning really is. And I don't think my kids are going to have a less meaningful life because their mom didn't teach them about her direct heritage. My kids are American. My kids are deeply involved in the environment. They're deeply concerned about kindness and things that matter to them now. And I think if I can just create people, good adults people. That are kind, inclusive, thoughtful, and they leave the world a better place than they found it, I will have done my job. And I think as immigrants, children of immigrants, we do ride this strange, we're straddling this strange place. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves that I've stopped doing. And I accept them for who they are and what they are. And when my mom comes, my kids can't really talk to her, so they communicate on Google Translator.
Oh, really?
And that's okay. I used to feel really bad about it. I still do, but less so. And I think they have a beauty to being these Indian American young people who will do wonderful things in their life.
I love it. Like, let's stop pressuring ourselves. I love it, Bella. Thank you.
Take the pressure off.
Yeah, we really do. As moms, as women, I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a beautiful conversation. Like, it's just so much there as a mom, as a single mom, a businesswoman, an immigrant.
It takes a village, though.
It does. It does. It really
no, I
does.
couldn't have done it alone. There's a lot of people.
It really does. And asking for help and accepting help is another thing, too.
That's another hard one. That's another show.
I know, right? This is turning into like a self-help motivational, but it's life. Yeah, it's really real. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining. Let people know where they can find you, support your work, connect with you.
Oh, yeah. You can find our products at Kroger, QFC. You can find our products at Amazon Go, at Market, PCC, and many other stores throughout the Pacific Northwest.
Amazing. And how can they connect you, like social media?
We have we don't really do a lot in social media, but you can find us on Instagram, Shribella Foods, and our website, shrebellafoods.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was an honor speaking to you today and having this beautiful conversation. I feel like I needed it. I needed to hear a lot of the gems you dropped. So thank you so much.
Anytime.
Thank you. Make sure that you are subscribing, sharing with your friends. Thank you so much for joining Dishin of Diaspora, where we'll continue to explore how food connects us all.